some skid marks on the bottom of your chair.
Oftentimes I cough and fart at the same time because I can't control it. Uh, Dude, I saw the strangest thing. Cardi B put out some tweet or TikTok or something. I don't really know, but I saw it on Facebook. And she was literally commenting about how to wash your ass, which is a good PSA. Except, I think we have different ideas of washing our ass. So she's like, you got to get your finger like halfway in your asshole and wash it clean. And I'm like,
Who cleans with their finger?
I was like, so you wash the inside of your large intestine?
She
Really?
massages it. She milks it, so to speak.
I was like, I mean, I'm one to get up and intimate when I'm trying to, clean up, and I'm a stinky guy, so I need to make sure I'm good and clean when I shower. But I've never considered an internal cleaning before. I thought that I was like, I think we learned how to wash our ass different in my family versus your family, because no one ever told me to finger myself when I was washing my ass. But
I just
maybe
don't see that.
I hope I've been doing it wrong this whole time.
Well, Cardi B would know, but that's interesting too, because I just don't think that cleaning yourself with your finger is very tidy and sanitary. I would think maybe go with like a wire brush type format, but maybe not like the metal wiring. Maybe like a thicker plastic or something like that to help get the gunk out of there. I don't know. Well, let me ask you this: how do you wash your ass? How are you raising your family to wash your ass? Because apparently you have your own guidelines there.
Oh no! I get all up in there, and I make sure that rectum exit hole is clear and clean and rubbed clean and smells good. I can never smell it because it's too far, but I imagine it smells good at least for a minute. But then, I've there's no penetration. No,
Hold on,
no
wait.
penetration.
That's a goddamn lie right there. What are you you're talking just about the cleaning. Sorry, I got sidetracked for a minute.
Well, I do have a mirror in the shower. I say it's for shaving, but it's like, look at me, look at me, look at me, look at me.
Stop it! I don't want to. Oh my god. Well, now I feel a little uncertain about myself, to be honest with you, and I also feel, I don't know, maybe I've been doing this wrong for a while, but is this video is this tutorial that she put up it's live, right? It's on.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it is a tutorial. That is a good description of it. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, she gets graphic. Like, she even shows it. Like, I get up about that far, and she's got like these long, crazy nails. She's like, nailing all. I'm like, good Lord.
I could see, like, similar to like a Coke nail or something like that could be good for digging like those little Coke boogers out of your nose. That could be pretty good for maybe getting some of that hard to reach stuff out of your rectum, because that always happens.
Well, it seems like if you're going to go nail and all like that, now you have a secondary cleanup. So now you have to go like dig out and clean underneath your nails and disinfect. Man. It just seems like there's this. Where does it end? Where does it end?
Well, apparently it ends with her WAP.
it ends with a colonoscopy.
Hey, you know what? Those are not that bad. I mean, I know a lot of people are fearful of them, but they give you some pretty good dope when you get one of those, man. I had one done in my 20s, and
I just turned 40, so I'm like,
it's time.
I'm up. I'm on deck if this were a baseball game. I'm on deck. Like, I gotta set my appointment and go. And then so is it awkward when you like come out of it and you just have a rager and you look the doctor in the eye and
you'd think it would be, but because you're kind of doped up, I actually do remember I like shot up in the middle of the operation when the drugs kicked in, and I put my arm around the nurse and started like babbling weird shit to her. So I don't think shame is something you're gonna have to deal with when like everybody's watching you and you have like a bunch of shit jammed up your ass. You know what I mean?
You're just like, well, doc, I mean, normally I prefer dinner first, but it's impressive, right?
Well, you know what? With that being said, welcome to the Stiff Truth. This is Scott Casanova, and of course, with me as always, and who has a very, very dialed-in way of cleaning his butthole, Mr. Bob West. How you doing, Bobby?
I'm doing really good. As good as can be expected.
Especially with a clean ass, right? I mean,
Very clean, very
there we
clean.
go. There we go.
Not as clean as Cardi B's, but it's very clean.
Hey, she did the tutorial. She did the tutorial. You can't be at that level yet.
But I can tell you this: my fingernails are much cleaner.
Ew.
So anyway, no, it's been an interesting week. I've watched way too much election results, thinking that I was going to naively get some sort of, result in, but like my wife, posted with the picture of the sloth from Zootopia.
Oh, I love that guy.
Those are the vote counters in Nevada and Arizona. So Pennsylvania gets a pass because they have like big cities.
You remember in Zootopia, he's like, Flash, 100-yard dash. How's it going, buddy?
Right. So it has been a crazy week. How about you? How have you been?
What a week, man. I mean, it's interesting, dude, because, and we'll get into it, obviously. There's been nothing but election stuff on all the news outlets, which there should be, especially when we talk about Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Now they have made the call. Now here's something that I think is interesting though now too is, like I had mentioned before, this isn't going to end well, nor is there going to be a very tied up in a bow, everything's done, let's move on, nice easy transition of power. So now I knew it was coming, but I'm already getting just tired of it's not fair, this wasn't done right. But honestly, it would have happened both ways. Okay, there's there's all kinds of celebrations going on in LA and Philadelphia, blah 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 blah, right? Like yesterday, especially when they announced it, goddamn well Trump's the winner. All those celebrations would have been Molotov cocktails. You know what I mean? So it's like
come on, dude. I don't think so. It didn't happen in 2016.
Oh, dude. But the whole hashtag not my president, I like some of the liberals right now that was like, guys, we just need to bind together and and people just need to get over it. And I was like, just like we did in 2016, how all the hardcore liberals just got over it right away. So no,
I'm still waiting for that though. I think that's still going to come. I think the hashtag not my president is going to start back up again.
It's probably going to be a rolling theme every 4 years, especially since this was regardless, they can do all the recounts they want. And some of the states, I think recounts are warranted. That's fine. Recount them if you want to do that. But it was such a damn close election. It was ridiculous. And as you know, biggest voter turnout ever in history. So,
yeah. And the recounts, everyone deserves their recount. And I'm all about it, count them until everyone's convinced that they have the count. But we know damn well that recounts maybe might change 100 or 200 votes that the machine messed up on or whatever out of tens of millions. It's just not gonna do a whole lot. I've seen so many recounts in my lifetime, and I've never seen a recount overturn an initial fucking count. I've never seen one.
I think more than anything for the states where it was really close and there's people, uproaring about suspicious things or ballots being whatever, just do it so people can have peace of mind that this was done legitimately. I think a recount is kind of, in my mind, hey, you want to recount? Okay, you get a fucking recount. After this, though, if the numbers are the same and your guy's still in the losing column, go shut the fuck up. You know what I mean? Cry about it, game plan, and get ready for the midterm elections, right? You want to make some noise? Let's go, do it. But yeah, I agree. But honestly, man, there's litigation going on now in 4 different states, of course, all hardcore swing states where it was very, very, very thin margin of victory. So, I mean, how long is this going to go on? A lot of people are saying this is a big waste of time, big waste of time and effort by Donald Trump. Honestly, why fight it so much is my thing. Didn't he campaign on this whole, I forego my salary, I don't even need this job, I've got the silver spoon in my ass already. Okay, dude, why fight it so hard though? You know what I mean? Just if it's been called, it's been called. They can do all the recounts, dude. whatever. What, they didn't announce like and have confirmation on all the litigation and recounts for the Bush Gore, I believe, until December 10th of that year. So again, we could be in for just a bunch of really boring news shit for the next couple of weeks at least, you know?
Yeah, and none of it's gonna change anything. I mean, the recount in Wisconsin is like anything under half a percentage
Mhm,
difference, half a
mhm.
point. And right now they're right at the edge of that, but that's 20,000 votes. A recount ain't gonna touch 20,000 votes. It's just not. And in Georgia a recount again, I think it's like 5 or 6,000 votes at this point. Again, you can request it and get it, and by all accounts, do it. Get your counts, make sure that everyone feels comfortable that it's been counted. But even still, there's so many people that aren't going to accept the results.
No matter what.
It's not going to change anything socially. Even if you can go and verify with, you know, Republican and Democrats staring at them the whole time they count and look at every single vote and you find out it's legit, there's still going to be people like, well, the votes that were submitted were illegal and whatever. You'll
Sure.
never win that argument just because of the identity politics that goes on and the tribalism is people associate their partisanship with their identity. So to go against their partisan belief system goes against them as their character and their person, and it's so fucking harmful to their ego, right? So it's okay to be partisan, but man, I really try to be mindful of that and separate my value system individually with my partisan politics belief system because I just don't think they're the same. I just don't. I don't want them to be the same.
Well, and I agree. See, I guess there's a personal stance that personally, I can only say this for myself and maybe you and some others. But if you are literally, and God bless you if you are, it's like throwing a fucking, dart at a dartboard blindfolded. If I actually would think that even the Libertarian Party or the Green Party, the Republican, if I thought that every single thing they stand for, I'm like, that's me to a fucking T. That's me 100%, like all the way down. I am a cookie cutter, like perfect mold of this, I don't think it's really feasible for a dynamic individual that can think on their own, you know what I mean, and has like a moral compass. I think that you have to veer off a little bit here and there, but here's me saying that, and I'm like, again, I'm probably a textbook independent when it comes to politics, but yeah, I don't get it, man. And people are, I think a lot of people right now are more upset tribalistically that their team and that their tribe is not in charge anymore, or allegedly not in charge anymore.
Yeah,
So, you know.
I like what you said right there. Their team,
Mhm.
right? Was as we're going through this election, it was very interesting to see how it happened, right? So a lot of people that may not pay attention to everything, or as political nerds as Scott and I, there's a couple of different ways and waves that things get processed, right? So everyone votes early. You voted, you dropped your ballot off in the box, right? And
Mhm.
I voted early with mail in. But as far as counting went for our states, they got put in the same group,
Mhm.
right? Those two went, and the early votes and the drop offs all went in the same group. That group didn't get counted in most all states until after the election day votes got counted, right? So then all the day of votes got counted and we're done. And then things were the way they were basically on the night of or the next day. We pretty much had all those votes in, but then the states went to their second pile. And that second pile was all the early voting and mail in voting and ballot drop offs. So that was you and I. Our votes got counted, Wednesday and Thursday. Well, then after that, if the election's still close enough, I mean, then you have the provisional ballots and the military ballots, right? So military members vote by mail and they vote overseas. A lot of them have an extension. As long as they get it mailed off in fucking Iraq or whatever by the election day and it's postmarked, then their vote will count even if it doesn't come in for 2 weeks. Right? I mean, they'll get their vote, but only if the state is close enough to require their vote still. Right. So if there's 20,000 votes out there for military and a candidate's up by 50,000 in a state, they're going to call that state. And they'll still count the votes as when they like officially put it on record. I mean, they'll get it, but they won't use it in their calling decision because mathematically it's already over. And that's kind of the way that goes. And then provisional ballots, people are really confused by that. So I just kind of want to explain that to people that may not know. If you roll up and you're not registered to vote, or if you want to change your party affiliation and vote a different way, or whatever you want to do, right? If you go there and you make a voter registration change, you get to vote, but you're put on a provisional ballot, right? And then those votes will get counted last. They'll all get counted, but they may not be used in the calling because, again, with the numbers, if it's mathematically irrelevant, it doesn't matter. They'll vote you on for the record when they certify the vote here in a couple weeks, but that's it. So some of what was happening here and people got really upset about was that, well, all of a sudden, Biden's getting more votes. And no, stop. Voting ended Tuesday at 7 o'clock in your time zone. So those votes were cast. It's just a matter of how they're getting counted and when they're getting counted and the order of things. And the whole system, I think, really irked a lot of people. And I think we probably need to go by, I know, as Florida as the role model here.
Whoa.
That's the first time I've ever said that. But they had their votes all counted early. So the ones that got put in early. So yours and my votes that were in a few days earlier would have already been counted in Florida. Right. So that way, when they did the day of, they had the day of, and then after that probably did the provisionals last. But they did such a good job that in a state of 38 million people or something like that, they had 98% of their votes counted on election night, even during COVID with all the mail-in surge. So they were the model vote counting state in all of this.
Well, and here's my thing too. I mean, the other thing that I guess people don't realize too is that the election essentially is 50 state elections that are, getting together to share results versus a federal election. It's really not how it works. That's why you have these different rules in place and everything too. And then that's why there's just abnormalities and differences between them. But we talked about this the other day. I mean, there's so much concern about perceived voter fraud doing it this Pony Express way. If you ask me, it's a very archaic way of doing voting. And I know it sounds very crazy to say this should be all done digitally and through an app or something like that. But honestly, why can't it be? But there's so much concern about all this, stuff passing through physical stuff in different people's hands, which seems to leave a lot more perceived margin of error, if you ask me, versus doing something digitally that you can literally share your banking information and routing number and your social security on all kinds of secure sites for whatever it is, right? For your bank, whatever. And there's a very, very low margin of that being jeopardized in the grand scheme of things. Why can't we just have this all done digitally? I mean, honestly, if we all had an app on our smartphone, and I hate to say it, but no, I don't hate to say it, but even people that are poverty stricken have some kind of smartphone on like some kind of smart plan where they pay fucking they prepay or something like that. So I would say probably more people have smartphones that actually voted this year. You know what I mean? In the country. I'm just going to go ahead and call that.
I would agree with that.
Yeah. So why can't we just have something we can download, vote fucking .org app or something like that and cast your ballot? It's instantly tallied up with everything. We can all view it. It's very transparent. There's only one system to police and patrol, is that system too. I'm no genius. And I'm definitely no person that can put together that app and say, oh, it's so easy to do. But it seems highly feasible in 2020 that we could come up with something like that that's very secure, that would knock a lot of this bullshit out. And honestly, the delay too, because I think the delay is a little ridiculous. Why is there a rule in Pennsylvania that a vote can be counted up until like a week after? I think the 11th is the last day they'll count a vote if it's postmarked. But here in Colorado, they won't even let you mail your shit in 2 weeks prior to the election anymore because they know that can happen. I mean, that kind of stuff just seems, again, there's inconsistencies because there's state laws that have different kind of rules about this. And that's I wouldn't say it's one of the issues, but it's one of the things that causes a lot of this uproar from whether it be right or left.
And what you said earlier, it's about perceivable
Hmm.
inequities with voting in different states. And that's the big thing here, right? Because perception is reality. So if you have someone like us, same thing. We can't we can't mail a ballot in on like October 29th or whatever, and then it snows and the mail's late, and then it comes in on the 4th. That won't be accounted here in New Mexico
Yeah.
because we didn't get it in soon enough. And we were told there was a public service announcement type campaign that went on in New Mexico that basically everywhere you looked was it's too late to absentee vote, even if you have it. Just take them in or go to the polls if you want your vote to count, and you want that guarantee. And so that is like that in probably a third or half the states, right? And then some are different. So when you're from that state and that's like what you're used to, and then you look at, well, there's a swing state like Pennsylvania, and it's completely radically different like that. Then you look at it with the side eye. You're like, oh yeah, well, the swing state is different, right? So that perception, and again, if there was either even federal guidelines about that would help with perception so that everyone has to be the same.
Hmm.
But again, I have biometrics for my fucking credit union app. Like
Yeah.
I have to scan my fingerprint
That's
to
pretty
open
fuck.
my banking account. Why
That's
can't I do that for my phone?
exactly. And I know I was thinking about this, but I guess that would be a little against, liberty, free will kind of thing. But I almost feel like, you know what? If you had the app too, kind of like how we talked about journalism, remove all the barriers to entry, right? You know what I mean? Like, even because, like, you could say there's people like, well, I wanted to vote, but I drug my feet. I missed it. I can't mail it in anymore. I don't have a car. I can't make, I can see excuse. I was like, yeah, hey, dude, it's on your fucking phone. And I think it'd be funny too if we had that system and everybody was forced to vote. Now I wouldn't advocate that. Be look, you either vote or you get like a fucking fine, almost like the mandatory the mandatory thing for Obamacare. But try that out for a little bit. You know what I mean? And then that way there's no barrier to entry, and there's even repercussions if you don't vote that way because it's so
Well,
goddamn easy.
you can even go with like a negative reinforcement thing, right? And just say you don't have to vote. But if you do vote,
You
you'll
get a
be
coupon to
eligible for
Wendy's.
this, or you'll be eligible for this tax break or whatever. Where if you don't
Sure.
vote, you won't be eligible for this extra tax break. Or there's like a voter, tax incentive that's like an extra $100 or something that if you
I,
voted, you'd fucking be eligible for it. And if you didn't, you wouldn't. And that would fucking incentivize people to vote.
the productive member of society tax, yeah, I like that tax grant or something like that. You know what I mean? Like, hey, you do it by this time. You vote every single year, every 2 years, whatever, right? Every 2 years that you can vote, you get a little write-off on your taxes. I love it. I think we just
So,
came up with an awesome plan.
so did you hear that, President-elect Biden? If you want to help fix the votes for next year and you're still alive for the next one, uh, we've come up with a plan to help ease the pressure of the voting system.
Hmm.
Um, one interesting, well, there's a bunch of interesting things about the voting this year. One is almost everyone I know that's of age and is able to voted this year. Like almost everyone. I can't think of anyone off the top of my head that I know for a fact didn't vote. Maybe like one person, which is incredible because in the past, about maybe a half to 2/3 of people of age that have the ability to vote actually vote in elections, and but everyone bitches equally, right
Sure.
afterward.
Sure.
So that was interesting. There's just a voter turnout on both sides. I mean, 150 million people voting in a 340 million place population country, right? And then you take away all the underage people. Man, that's like a vast majority of eligible voters voted. That's impressive.
It was
Uh,
very impressive. Yeah, no, I will say that too. And you brought up a good point. A lot of people would say, well, that's just how many people just wanted Trump out of office. No, not the case. There was just as many people, like you were, saying, on both ends of the table that came out to vote because of their perceived threat that they're seeing of socialism, right? I mean, that's the big narrative. Like, if Biden wins, he's going to be pushed to the side with his age and with his mental capacity. Kamala's going to take over, blah, 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 blah. So, yeah, I think you have people that came out just equally on both sides to pump that up, which is actually, and we talked about it too, it's a very interesting statistic that Donald Trump, besides Joe Biden, has received the most votes in American voting history in this election.
Yeah, just to wash that down, wash that pill down with some special sauce there. Um, Donald Trump received more votes than Barack Obama did in 2008.
Yeah, chew on that for a little bit, America. We're
Yeah, soak that one in.
yeah, we're so
Um,
fucking progressive.
I do like what you said about the fear of socialism, and I think there was a key indicator of that, right? So the Republicans picked up about a dozen seats in the House, right?
They did a pretty
Um,
good job. I think +9 or something like that, or +10. I couldn't even remember
so
what I saw last.
6 of those came from Florida, right? And if you look at Florida, I'm pretty sure they were pushing that anti-socialism agenda pretty hard and campaigning in Florida, because the Miami-Dade count, which is the Democrats' only way to win Florida ever, is
Yeah.
by heavy turnout and heavy ratio in Miami-Dade. I mean, Biden won it, but barely. I mean, Biden won it by like 6 points or something like that, compared to like 20 10 years ago. You know what I mean?
Well,
And
you
I think a
gotta.
lot of that is the Cuban
Mhm.
population there.
Mhm.
I think a lot of them just hear the word socialism and are
And
like,
they're like,
"Fuck
no
that."
go, no go.
And I
Yeah,
think that really is a benchmark for why so many people like in Florida started voting it. Because, like I said, not only did Trump win Florida, but the Republicans picked up the 6 House seats in Florida alone.
yeah, and which is interesting. I was going to actually say that too. Is like, if you campaign against what can happen when you go socialist, you're going to lose a lot of people from Latin American countries in general, especially Cuba and otherwise. You know what I mean? Seriously, so even Mexican nationals, the way their country kind of teeters sometimes on being tyrannical and everything like that, you can kind of get the same fright in them too, on a whole. So definitely that. The other thing that was really interesting too is a lot of these flips in the House too were actually women, GOP women, conservative women, which I think is kind of just as equal as Kamala Harris being the first vice president woman, person of color, all that good stuff. It's equally important that more women are picking up House seats that are conservative, because that's not always a cookie cutter thing either. So it is quite interesting that that's happened. Um, but yeah, dude, again, we were talking about it the other day. The other really interesting thing to me is this was such a narrow margin, and we talked about this. I think really, if you want to talk about what the hell happened here for Donald Trump, is the support was there. I mean, we obviously saw that it was pretty much almost there. What was the little slice that he missed? And honestly, I really think it was that horrible impression that he gave everybody in the country, but especially the people that were on the fence during that shit show of what we'll call the first presidential debate. I think he lost a lot of potential people there that he could have got over the hump here at the very end, and he seemed like he made a very good fourth quarter push, dude. You know what I mean? In those key swing states. But I think that shit show dropped a lot of those people right in the middle that, again, are not choosing to vote on issues. They're not voting on that anymore. When you get to that level, we talked about it before. They're talking about likability, trustworthiness, and for somebody that can't shut their goddamn mouth, you know, follow the rules and have any kind of etiquette. I think that lost those middle of the ground people that could have potentially pushed him over, and we could have been looking at a second term.
Yeah, I completely agree. And in fact, I think that Donald Trump was campaigning less against Joe Biden as he was against Donald Trump.
Mm-hmm.
Um, he's his own worst enemy. He couldn't get over it. He couldn't just separate himself from his own ego and his own temper to be uh to push forward enough. And again, that first debate, we've talked about it. It's not just the first debate, it's the last 3 months or so. He's missed several opportunities that he's had, right, to make wins out of this, to as you can tell from the election, he
Yeah.
didn't need a whole lot more,
No.
but he couldn't get out of his own way to complete that. And he could have. This was his election to lose, and I think he lost it barely, but he lost it. Mitt Romney said something interesting, and for those that don't follow, Mitt Romney's a senator from Utah.
So he's not super important, but
Well, he ran for president in 2012,
I
so
know. I mean, he
uh,
lost.
he did, and I wanted to point out too is I meant to tell you earlier, but with all these recounts and everything, I don't think it's looking good for Kanye. So anyway, sorry, I had to
Damn
get that
it.
one in at some point in the show. I had to get that in.
I was
So
honestly, I was hoping that people wouldn't just stop talking about him so he could sneak through and they do the recounts. Like Conley by a landslide, Kanye wins. Who's going to tell him that he didn't win? Because I think he still thinks he won. I don't know, man. Something's up with that guy. But
I'm waiting for his concession speech. It's going to be epic.
So he'll do it. He'll do a tandem with Trump. They'll do it together.
Right. It's going to be him on like some collaboration with like, I don't know, name your R&B singer to sing the hook.
How about Cardi B? Throw in there. Why not?
So Mitt Romney, circling back. Mitt Romney said something interesting. He said, so the Republican values did pretty good in this election. I mean, we won several House seats back. Overall, the general, temperature of America seemed to go a little bit more Republican. Maybe a little bit. But he said more so the vote for Trump was more of a vote against one person, not the party. He said, so overall, the party did well. And it was just that vote against the one person. And so that was an interesting thing. And I mean, here in New Mexico, one of our representatives flipped. So we were one of the other, 4 or 5 people other than Florida that flipped too. But interesting, like you said, with the women, all 3 of our House of Representatives are now Congresswomen in New Mexico.
Yeah. So. I think this is a good thing. And honestly, I'm not going to sit here and I think I kind of mentioned it before, but it's very, very huge victory for Kamala Harris to be the vice president of the United States. I mean, you've only had a couple of people that have ran for president before that have ever been women, and this is a huge deal. But that's the other big win too. Regardless of where you're at with the presidential election or being what kind of partisan influence that you have, it is cool to see that a lot of people that are overtaking some very, very important tipping scale kind of seats in the House and the Senate have been women. Now it does look, and I know there's still counting going on, and a couple of these ones are really, really narrow in Georgia. I don't even think they've called them yet. But it does look like the Republicans are going to keep the majority of the Senate.
They're tied right now with 48 seats apiece, right?
Yeah.
Well, and the one independent Bernie seat that's a Democrat. But
Yeah.
But so there's 2 seats in Georgia that are now going to run off. So one was a weird round robin, 30 people ran for it. So naturally no one's going to get more than 50%. And in Georgia, you have to get more than 50% or it triggers an automatic runoff. Right. So then no one got more than 50%. So though they whittled it down to the 2 best candidates as Democrat and Republican, and they're going to run off. That was expected. What wasn't expected was the Jon Ossoff runoff. So he lost by a couple of points or a point and a half or whatever it was. But the Republican candidate, I forget his name off the top of my head, but he didn't get 50%. I mean, it was like 49.8 or something like that. So it triggered an automatic runoff. So now there's 2 Senate seats in Georgia with an automatic runoff. So be prepared to see $1 billion slid by both parties into Georgia over the next 2 months. Because I think that runoff votes for on the 15th of January.
Yeah. And this is very, very pivotal for each party, right? You know what I mean? And granted, it's 51 to get majority. So if they get the 2 to go one way or another, you still need 1 more. So there's still a couple.
Kamala Harris would be the tiebreak.
Yeah. Well, what happens when she takes office though?
That's what I'm saying. If there's 50-50, then should be the tiebreak. So normally when a senator is appointed to a position or gets office like this, the governor then has the right to appoint a replacement. So,
well,
I think
we all know how that's going to
go. Yeah. So I don't think that's a mystery about what's going to happen with Gavin Newsom of replacing Kamala Harris in San Francisco. But it's also San Francisco, so it's kind of well, I guess it's Senate, so it's just 2 in general, but still. So we'll see. I don't think there's any chance in hell that those 2 Senate seats in Georgia go Democrat over Republicans in Georgia. We'll see. I know that Biden won the state barely, but I don't know. It'll be fascinating to see over the next couple of months, just the voter turnout That's going to happen in Georgia. I mean, all eyes are going to be on Georgia because that's essentially going to control the capability of creating permanent laws.
Yeah.
Uh,
And they could be extremely one way or the other. If well, extremely left, let's just face it. That to
right.
me is a concern because I don't wholeheartedly believe in everything the left wants to do. But if they have a liberal president and a liberal everything when it comes to the House and Senate, that's my pocketbook is going to be hurting a little bit over the next few years, probably. That's what I would imagine. That's
Yeah,
about it, though.
and there's the risk there of like the revenge politics. That's my biggest concern is the revenge politics,
Well,
right?
and honestly, look at Pelosi and stuff like that. She's not a big girl. She sits there and rips up speeches and stuff like that right behind Trump and everything when he's talking, So we all know that there's some vindictive stabs back that are going to happen. Even with Trump out of there, he's still going to have a huge influence. And unfortunately, now that Trump's put his stamp on the Republican Party, I think you're right. I think that could be a huge threat if the left kind of takes over everything. Other way around, I don't really see it changing much of anything for my day-to-day life for the next 4 years, to be honest with you.
No, and honestly, I think the first thing that Biden's going to do, of course, is the coronavirus. He's already announced like some of his head, medical team that they're already putting together a plan or whatever.
Sure.
So you know that the coronavirus number one. I think everyone pretty much knows that at this point. But then he said the first non-coronavirus item that he wants to hit is the infrastructure, the bipartisan infrastructure bill that's been sitting around for like 4 years to rebuild bridges, electrical grids, fucking internet, all that shit that's going to provide, probably hundreds of thousands or millions of jobs all across the country. That bill, for some reason, Trump didn't want to tackle until after he got, I think it was healthcare or Obamacare rid of or whatever. But the bottom line is he never got around to it. But that was bipartisan, right? So, I mean, that's just sitting around waiting for it to happen. And really, we need it. Our infrastructure sucks. Even we were laughing at our fucking internet this morning.
But yeah, it's no fun and games when you're downloading less than you're uploading. Let me tell you that, kids. This for everybody out there. The struggle is real. Well, and that's interesting too, because maybe I was reading something different. I don't know. I tend to kind of, read some abstract news pieces here and there. But I heard one of his first orders of business, non-coronavirus related, is to really build up the distribution and availability of millions and millions of doses of Cialis and Viagra. You didn't hear that?
Oh, good. I'm going to get mine. Where do we register for that? Is it easier than registering to vote? Or?
Oh, it's going to be. It's like first order of business. Jill, I'm going to take care of you. I am going to rail you so hard as the new first lady.
Yeah, I really think that the infrastructure thing is going to be huge because that gives him and Mitch a chance to negotiate something out that's bipartisan, right?
Now, fly on the wall with those two guys talking. I'm like probably going to be passed out like from boredom within like
oh my god
2 seconds, dude. You see, Joe. Oh my god. Anyways, what were you saying?
Well, Mitch, here's the deal.
Hey, Mitch, you gotta be kidding me. You gotta be kidding.
Yeah. I don't know. I know a lot of a lot of conservative thought is that Mitch McConnell's just not going to do shit with Biden because fuck him, and I don't think that's the case. I think that Mitch McConnell will definitely leverage his power because he rules that fucking Senate with an iron fist.
Well, and right? Again, we'll see what happens with these remaining seats, but yeah, I mean, I would have to imagine because you have one of these scenarios play out. All of a sudden, he is not the Senate Majority Leader, so.
Yeah, if I were a Vegas guy, I would be putting money on the Republicans to maintain the Senate at this point. I think the odds are pretty far stacked against the Democrats to even tie the Senate seats and grab those other two from Georgia. But I think that the Mitch McConnell Biden dynamic, I mean, they go back like 40 years, right? They've both been in the Senate since the 70s. So these guys are used to the struggle and the negotiation. This isn't the new school of tribalism thing. These guys predate that. So it's possible that they are able to negotiate and get old school, or at their age, Old Testament. But,
whatever, right?
And try to start, gaining some ground on some of these issues that have been lingering for a good decade or so. So I don't know. I think that's the other thing after the Georgia Senate races, and it's just that how is Mitch McConnell and the president elect going to interact, and how is their relationship going to be?
You know what? It's kind of interesting for me to think that both of these guys were already doing the dance in politics when Star Wars came out in 1977. That's
Isn't that
interesting.
crazy?
Yeah, that's pretty intense, considering some of the people that from that movie are dead, and they're not. So, with that being said, I don't know about you, but I think it's about time for a cocktail, bud.
Yeah, let's go. Let's go make a cocktail. I'm into
Oh
that.
yeah, okay.
Cheers, Scotty.
Oh, cheers all the way. Cheers to your tits.
Cheers for fears.
Oh, that's a great band.
Cheers for beers.
Easy cheers. Go ahead and recline that thing all the way back. Pour yourself a nice little bottle of bubbly.
Hey there, sweet tits.
Hey, how we doing?
I'm doing pretty good. I got my
Show me the
cocktail.
goods. Show me the goods, baby. Show me the goods.
Oh, that's the goods right there. Oh.
A Italian surfer with a Russian attitude.
It's good. It's really good.
Frothy.
It is frothy.
You know what's cool about this cocktail? Just now, again, sucking each other's dicks on how good and how smart we're getting at mixology and the like is the name is they're not the name. A lot of the names of these cocktails aren't very original in the sense that you know what taste profiles they have by the name a lot. So when I thought about this one and I made it, I was like, huh, totally makes sense why they call it that. An Italian surfer. Okay, you've got the coconut rum. That's the surfer tropical kind of aspect of it. Italian, obviously, the amaretto. And then with a Russian attitude, that's the vodka. I was like, interesting how that works. And I was like, huh. And there's a lot of other names of drinks out there that are similar, but they play off the taste profiles and kind of, I guess, just what they are, what they're associated with normally, right? Like the island feel or whatever. You always get surfer, like a surfer on acid and stuff like that. If we look it up again, it's probably very similar kind of.
Yeah, you throw some Jaeger in that, and it's a surfer on acid. I mean,
yeah. You know,
almost. Yeah, it's really good. In fact, it tastes like really sweet and good, but then you get that Russian attitude. It has like the aftertaste of the vodka. Right, so you definitely taste it in there to give it that kick. So interesting drink, guys. A little bit of amaretto, a little bit of coconut rum, a little bit of vodka, top it off with pineapple juice. That's what we're drinking today.
Honestly, dude, can you go wrong with pineapple juice in a drink? I haven't found one yet. I just haven't found one yet. And from what I understand too, it's supposed to make semen taste sweet and yummy too. Only hearsay over here, but Bob, you can tell us a little bit more of that. Is that true?
It does. It works.
I had to try it on myself when I heard that.
Fucking love pineapple.
So, Bob, why do you have 18 cans of like dull pineapple juice in your cupboard? Don't worry about it.
No, it's good. It's good.
wiping your mouth off, your frothy mouth. Well, this is a good one, buddy, and I'm glad that we both now, just to plug it, both have our own 10th edition, because I was behind, but we now have the current 10th edition of the Bartender's Black Book, and it's fun to thumb through with it, just finding some really clever drinks in there, and they're legit too.
Because especially at this point, you pretty much look through them and you look over there and you're like, yeah, I got everything to make that.
Yeah. Well, and it's funny too. I mean, we talked about it. One of the reasons why we decided to go with this one, I mean, let's face it, what we're talking about today, there's really no tie-in to the drink's name or anything, but it gave us an excuse to go buy some Di Serrano because we both didn't have Di Serrano in the bar. Now we do.
Yeah. Like, how do you not have amaretto? Like, how do you have all these other, a dozen liqueurs in there and no amaretto? It's very strange. So when I saw this, and first of all, the name was intriguing. Then I looked at the ingredients. I said, that sounds delicious. And it is. It is.
Stiffies, get out there and try it. I did post a pic of me mixing one up yesterday. And I'll tell you what, we took the picture literally right after I was done shaking it and pouring it in there because there was still like about a good half inch of froth right at the top. And that, oh God, oh God, good stuff, man. Good stuff.
This is why the late, great Sean Connery liked his shit shaken and not stirred. I'm telling you.
Was it him that liked it, or was it 007's character? I guess they're one and the same. They're one and the same.
Yeah, is there a difference there? I'm not going to admit that there is. I will live in my fantasy world.
Good for you. And there's a lot going on in that fantasy world too. I mean, the last time we chatted too, you're now role playing with Jess about being a very elderly man before you get into some foreplay and sexual activity now, which is nice.
She's my campaign manager.
This is fun stuff. But
how are the numbers, sweetheart? Get over here. Let me smack your ass.
Oh, that's good stuff. Well, I'll tell you what, man, just to kind of lead into what we're going to be chatting a little bit more about today is just thinking. And I think we both, we're on the same page here. It's like, man, like you had mentioned earlier in the show too, this was Trump's election to lose, right? He had all the ingredients. He did, guys. And I know out there, some of you guys that are listening, I was like, I don't know what Scott's saying here. Trump's a moron. Okay, there's something to that. But the guy could have won again. And he swung and he missed too many times. And it was what I like to call an epic fail of modern times. And with that being said, it got me and Bob thinking here. It's like, you know what? There's been a lot of epic fails of just modern, even American history that maybe we should dive into a little bit and maybe kick up the old remembrance of some of these two that are maybe not so in the near distant past. So that's what we're going to be chatting about a little bit today, guys, is just people that came up a little short, a lot of hype, maybe things that should have been that never were or faded out very quickly. Bob, shed some light on what you're thinking here.
Well, I mean, the most recent huge epic fail that I can think of is right away Hillary in 2016. Right? Speaking of having the chance, having the election to lose, even more so than old DJT this year, Hillary had everything going for her except for that she was kind of a snooty bitch, and her perception was terrible, and everyone couldn't stand her on a personal level, you know what I mean? And she did nothing to change that. So it was like she did have her opportunity and she took it for granted. She didn't even tour through the blue wall states of Michigan, Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania. She didn't even go give speeches there and care at all. She just took it for granted, which is funny because the margins in those states historically, they've been blue barely. Every time, barely.
Could you say there was a bit of smugness in 2015, 16 on all the liberal side? Like Donald Trump is a joke. You're going to get this one by a landslide. It's no contest. You don't even need to campaign, like you were saying, pretty much. I think they really, really missed the mark there.
Well, I'll tell you, Scott, it's not even just the smugness of Hillary. It was the smugness of the voters. A lot of Democrat voters just simply didn't turn out, I think, because they thought it was in the bag, because how could she lose to this reality TV star? So, again, number one of the most recent, for recency bias reasons, I think we'll start off with Hillary's epic fail of 2016. Epic fail.
I'll say this too. Her wardrobe to me was probably the biggest epic fail. I don't know if I could stomach seeing her any longer in 2016 in another goddamn pantsuit. You know what I mean? She just really, really destroyed the pantsuit for a lot of professional women. So that's really what tipped the scale for me. It had nothing to do with her perceived distrustworthiness or anything like that. It all boiled down to her lack of style and her really epic fail of a wardrobe. That's just me.
Just added to her, for modern terms, Karenism. Right, it just added to that. I mean, Karens weren't even a thing then, but if there were, Karen was Hillary.
She was an older, uglier, original Karen. We could just say.
Now, I do got to say that old President DJT is getting very Karen-like right now. I mean, he's definitely trying to talk to some managers.
I want to speak to the manager of Arizona, of Nevada, of Michigan, of Wisconsin, of Pennsylvania, and where else did I lose? Georgia.
That guy.
All
But I
right,
mean,
enough about
there's
him.
plenty of non-political epic fails. Because these are the ones that are more memorable. And we're going through our list, and we have so many good ones. And we'll talk about them all. But
Don't you worry, guys.
I forgot about one of the most glaring epic fails. In the last couple hundred years,
Bring me back, Bob.
the Titanic.
Oh, jeez.
Epic fucking fail, right? Let's build this skyscraper on the water and just say how badass it is, and then ram it right on into a fucking iceberg and see if it fucking sinks.
You know what? That is a great one that I did not touch on when we were brainstorming the other day. Which, God, I don't know if there's one bigger than, especially if you think about the hype. You know what I mean? This is it. This is the Cadillac, freaking huge tits of any kind of cruise ship. Bring all the elites on here. I mean, everybody that was anybody was
Right.
on
Let's
the
get
Titanic.
the most power in Europe and put them all in one boat.
Yeah.
See who makes it when the fucking rats start fucking crawling out of the boat to survive.
I guess to their credit though, at that time they probably thought, this thing is going to be so massive, how could it even sink? In fact, if it does, it'll probably just sit on the floor of the ocean and everybody can get out because it's so big. So I don't know what they were thinking, but boy, that's a good one, Bob. I mean, I almost want to say too soon, but I think over 100 years, you're safe. You're in the safe zone. You know what I mean?
And along those lines, I'm just going to go ahead and bring it up. The Hindenburg was a great epic fail. Let's find the most flammable gas that we can find and throw it in this huge airship.
Not even just the Hindenburg, just Zeppelins in general.
Yes.
Not a very good modern marvel right there. I agree. That's good. I mean, those are good. I hope we didn't upset too many people, and if we did, fuck you. I'm gonna speed it up a little bit here. I really want to mention, and I know this is going to be a little old school for people here, but I really want to mention Milli Vanilli. I really do. Probably do it. Oh, is that COVID?
Maybe. I'm gonna have to go get tested now. Son of a bitch.
Milli Vanilli is definitely one of my top ones, especially being a huge music fan. And if you think about the late 80s and them winning the best new artist for the Grammys back in, I believe, 1988 or 89 for Blame It on the Rain, and that amazing album, that's probably a top one for me. And again, I know this is kind of old school. Some people are probably scratching their head. They're Googling right now, who the fuck is Milli Vanilli? Well, they're actually a couple of German pop stars. But I believe they're both African. I want to say African American. Well, they're not American, so they're both
African German.
African German, German African. How do you say that? I've never been
African.
A Germafrican. Boy, that's a good one right there. But okay, so they were both Germafricans, and they were hailed as like the best thing since sliced bread in 1988, 1989, even got a Grammy for best new artist, but they didn't sing any of their songs. And in their cases, they weren't allowed to by their contract. This is apparently true. They can sing, believe it or not. But these older, less attractive gentlemen sang all their hits. They were not allowed to sing. And it is common practice to lip sync and to sing like with a recording on a tape when you're doing a dance routine because you get out of breath. But that was their big epic fail. They had just won Best New Artist. They're on the MTV Music Awards. And it's the track, the tape starts skipping on Blame It on the Blame It on the Blame It. And for a minute, they're trying to get down like they're doing a remix of it. But they could never live that down. After that, they tried to come out with an album where it was just them singing. I think it sold 2,000 copies total in the United States, opposed to 7 million that they sold as Milli Vanilli. And one of the guys, sadly enough, in the late 90s, developed a horrible drug problem and had a accidental overdose. But again, epic fail. Kind of was a big laughing stock joke in the early 90s, late 80s. But I got to mention that one too. I got another one, but I'm going to let you go ahead here. It looks like you got something on your mind.
Oh, I got plenty on my mind.
Let's keep it to epic fails. All right.
There's just epic fails for days that go around all the time. Again with the recency, we hit on a little bit earlier, but Kanye's run for president.
Yeah.
Epic fucking fail.
Dude,
just epic fail.
Well, he literally did think he could take votes away from Biden or whatever the plan was behind the scenes. I'm not even sure if that's the case or if he's just delusional. But I mean, he even came in.
Yes,
He
all of
even,
that.
yeah, he even came in well behind in every state because I looked at it. Joe Jorgensen too, right? And she had minimal money, a very small platform, a very small audience, and he is a very famous American superstar. You would think that given the opportunity, he would have got a little bit more than he did, but he did piss poor. I'll say that he got less than 0.05% of the national vote, something like that.
Yeah, I think he got like 60,000 votes total or something. It's pretty bad. But just the idea of it all, just I'm going to run for president on a whim. Oh, cool. You're not going to go through the primaries or campaign or like do anything legit. You're just going to try to go get on the ballots. And even still, I think he was only on what, like 11 ballots?
He wasn't on every single one in the because I remember seeing the stats and it was Biden Trump or Trump Biden then Jorgensen and then on a couple here and there it was West couple, but then yeah, he was left off. A good amount of the states did not have him on there. Not he wasn't on the ballot enough to even be considered a viable threat in any way, shape, or form. Not that he was
No.
beforehand, but
I mean, JoJo got like millions of votes nationwide. So
she
I
did.
wouldn't even like put them near the same category. She was an actual presidential candidate. Um, Kanye was just a sideshow. Anyway, epic fail.
Yeah, definitely an epic fail. I'll mention this too. I'm going to take it back a little bit again too. I love this one. I love the fail and the blip in the 90s culture of Crystal Pepsi. You remember Crystal Pepsi. Now, weren't you pumped when that came out? I was pretty excited. This was like 92, 93. What were your thoughts when you saw the first commercial?
I fucking loved Crystal Pepsi. It was so
Mm-hmm.
hip. Like, oh, we're moving into the future. Back to the Future 2 was a big thing, and then Crystal Pepsi came along and like, look, our sodas are like clear now. This is like some new shit, right? Um, but I was also like 11.
Yeah, I also thought WWF was really cool too.
And
Not to,
real.
yeah. Hey, we're not saying anything out there, red states that love Budweiser and NASCAR or anything like that. We know those guys are very talented. It really hurts to get in the ring and play around like that. But yeah, you're absolutely right. Crystal Pepsi was a big deal to me too, and it was that kind of like I have no idea why, but my soda is clear and it's really fucking cool. But apparently that's not what the masses thought, Bob. And you know what? I had to do a little bit of research on this because it has been, oh Jesus, close to what? Close to 30 years? I want to say 25, 27 years, something like that, since this whole
Yeah.
fiasco happened here.
Yep.
But when I looked back on it, there was a few things, and I was talking to you about this before, like when Crystal Pepsi failed. And please, younger Stiffies, just Google Crystal Pepsi and check out the story. There's like a 4 or 5 minute video on why it failed on YouTube. It's fucking hysterical. But literally, there was so much hype and so much buildup for this. And I think even the creator was so excited, he decided to forego a lot of the taste testing and that kind of part of your R&D. So everybody was screaming that worked for him that it should taste like Pepsi. It should just be clear. It should taste like Pepsi, but it didn't taste very much like Pepsi. The other thing that they did is they tried to market it as a healthier version, a healthier soda, but yet the main ingredient was high fructose corn syrup. So that kind of missed the mark altogether. The other thing that was really interesting is they never explained through marketing and telling the narrative and the story of the point of Crystal Pepsi why it was a benefit or why we needed to have a clear cola, that was never there. And then the other really big epic fail is people associated Crystal Pepsi with Right Now, Van Halen song, because it was their big campaign ad to have Crystal Pepsi in a Super Bowl ad with Van Halen's song playing as the background
Well,
track.
I remember that campaign too. I remember their campaign was literally right now.
Yeah.
It had nothing to do with anything.
Mm-mm, mm-mm. Well, and another thing too is a lot of people were saying like the reason why it missed the mark so much with people in general, not just kids that were just like us, very small kids that just thought it looked cool, is we had been conditioned and trained for close to 70, 80 years that anything cola flavored was brown, right? So a lot of people, when they got Crystal Pepsi and it didn't taste like Pepsi, first of all, what they're thinking they should be getting is like a lemon lime kind of flavoring, which was kind of dominating the clear soda, kind of the competitors right there with 7-Up and Sprite. So there was just a whole bunch wrong with it. If they would have like rolled this out with a nice, smooth marketing campaign and a reason why it was cool, instead of just being all because Van Halen likes it, so get in here and drink some Crystal Pepsi or something like that, it could have been really successful. But pretty big epic fail. It lasted a whopping 1993 to 1995. They discontinued it, brought it back in 2016 with a nice little nostalgic campaign ad, and it actually sold out very quickly. So not totally dead, but definitely a 90s.
Yeah, from guys like us that wanted a 6-pack on their shelf of nonsense.
Baby, that's just that's a piece of liquid history right there, baby. You know what I'm saying?
Right. It was like, oh yeah, it's next to your fucking Ninja Turtles that are still in the original packaging. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's where that goes.
Next to my California raisin set that I have.
You know, the 90s were just chock full of epic fails.
They really were. It was a good time to fail.
It was. I mean, you had music failures, sports failures. One of the ones that we had talked about was both going from prominence to disgust were the metal bands of Guns N' Roses and Metallica. I think Guns N' Roses has a more significant epic fail than Metallica, but let's not say that Metallica didn't have an epic fail in the 90s.
Oh, and I think I want to say they're both around the same time. I want to say Spaghetti Incident. And so everybody doesn't know the Spaghetti Incident was an incident. And it kind of looked like the cover of the album too. It was just a big fucking mess. But I believe the Spaghetti Incident, if memory serves me correct, came out in like 95, 96. And I think Load came out in 1995 as well. Please fact check me on that, Bob.
93, Spaghetti Incident.
Whew, damn. What about Load? 95?
Oh, yeah. I want to say it was 96, but let's see. Metallica Load. 96.
96. Okay. So around the same time, but literally, Metallica's at its height in the 80s, early 90s. The Black Album was the most commercially successful album. And by all means, I think Guns N' Roses was the biggest band on the planet from about 1987 to about 1992. We'll call it 91, yeah. 92. And these are both albums that literally killed the entire trajectory, you could say, that they were having with their fan bases in the world and pop culture in general. But yeah, this was pretty bad. Now, so anybody doesn't know, Metallica, and if you go listen to our metal series, they're pretty pivotal in the 80s. But I don't know what happened, man, but it seems like they all had kind of the Samson kind of thing going on, where once they chopped their long hair, like they lost all their musical talent and prowess, because they came out like new image, fresh thing, clean cut motherfuckers looking GQ, and their music just took a big fat bubbly shit.
I think they stopped drinking profusely.
See, guys, this is a PSA here. When you're talented, and it's partially because you always indulge.
Don't fuck with the formula.
Don't rock the goddamn creative boat, guys. You keep that thing rocking until the wheels come off. But in all seriousness, in my mind, when you completely lose your creative talent so far that you can't think of a proper name for your album besides calling it another version of a piece of shit, that's a red flag right there. You know what I mean?
He's referring to the next shitty album called Reload. So,
oh my God. Whoever thought that was good too. But it's funny that they called the second piece of shit album Reload, and they also have on that second album, isn't it like the Unforgiven 3 or something like that? By that time, they've made like a 3-part series, almost like
it was just Unforgiven 2. Don't be dramatic.
They're okay. Sorry. Unforgiven 15.
But it's funny that the albums were literally named after like ejaculation.
Yeah, it's pretty bad. And then the Spaghetti Incident, I mean, literally, I don't even know if everybody at that point in time, I think Axl and Slash had been so divisional, within the band and everything too, with pulling people apart. I don't even believe the Spaghetti Incident had but like 2 original members out of the 5 or 6 guys that were on Appetite for Destruction. Like,
yeah, I don't even think that like Axl and Slash were recording together at that point.
Yeah,
I think they were doing separately because they hated each other so much.
It makes sense. This makes sense.
Is ridiculous. Well, they're not the only musical fail in the 90s. I mean, we can keep this train rolling. Let's
go, baby. Let's go, baby.
MC Hammer going bankrupt.
Who would have thought that would happen, man? Jesus Christ.
this guy
Too legit to check his bank balance.
for real. The funny thing is he had like a 20-30 million dollar palace with like golden toilets and shit, and this guy goes bankrupt. Like I just it's very, very odd. But he had the can't touch. Excuse me, that's the pineapple juice coming back. But
Yeah,
he
that's
had
what
the
they call
can't
it.
touch this album, right? And it was just all the rage in the, I think it was 89 when that came out. And then he went to Please Hammer Don't Hurt 'Em. If you remember that album, right? That was the Too
Jesus
Legit to
Christ.
Quit shit, right?
Mhm.
And then that was it. I mean, this dude like never really sold any substantial songs after that song right there.
You know what I think he did?
Um,
I think he literally saw that springboard with those first two albums, and his mind kind of went, to the he went, to the heights of where he could possibly go, and his spending just mimicked his feeling of excitement, I think,
but
and it never
turns out
stopped.
he was no Bieber. I mean,
No, 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 no.
or Taylor Swift. They're
Yeah.
the two. Those two are worth like almost $2 billion combined. Can you believe that shit?
You know.
Crazy. Definitely no epic fails there, at least not financially.
No. Very surprising.
So yeah, freaking MC Hammer, epic fail. Another epic fail in the '90s. Your boy there behind you.
You know what? There's been multiple times that I've looked at my background while we've been recording today, and I'm just like, oh shit. I was like, gee, he looks kind of like, honestly, he looks like somebody that's looking at my daughter a little strange in that picture right there. They're like, hey, dude, put it away,
He's like, yeah, I think she's holding a Vicodin.
But so everybody that's not watching the YouTube video, Bob is referring to probably the biggest, can we say the biggest epic fail at the quarterback position?
I don't even think it's questioned. I don't even think it's quarterback. I think it's the biggest epic fail in a draft pick at the NFL in the history of the league.
All right, so let's lay it out here. What is it? 1997,
97.
97?
No, wait, I think it was 98. It might have been
98, 98, because it's the same year Manning came in, right?
Right.
So yeah, let's laying it out for everybody too. There, and back in the day, Stiffies, there was a couple of really bright talents coming out of college football that were going in the NFL draft at the QB position. That seemed to be the number 1 and 2 pick, right? You had Ryan Leaf, a very promising young man, as well as Mr. Peyton Manning coming from the Volunteers. And the San Diego Chargers had first pick that year, if you remember, right? And they went ahead and they snagged Ryan Leaf without any regret, right? They thought to themselves, you know what, this is going to be fantastic. We're not even nearly regretful about passing up Peyton Manning. He's not going to be
to his credit, he had a pretty good rookie year.
Yeah. Oh, he had a decent rookie year, right? Wait. Didn't he win one game and lost 15? I think he had a good first game, Ryan Leaf. I think he was 1-15 his first year.
All right.
And then they got LaDainian Tomlinson with their first round draft pick the next year, I thought. Or no, maybe not. You let me know.
He won 3 games that first year.
Okay. My bad. You're right.
No, he did not have a good first year. I thought he did. But no, he had a completion percentage of 45% in his first year.
Yeah, there was one game where he played. Oh, he was playing the Chiefs in his first season. Now, again, guys, and I need to let everybody know this. The reason why Ryan Leaf didn't seem to keep his momentum going as a promising quarterback star in the NFL is he wasn't really into training. He wasn't really into developing. He wasn't really into practice. He pretty much he was the cock of the walk, right? He could just walk in there and throw 5-6 touchdowns on any team, because he had all that NFL experience at the time. So, that's kind of just what happened to him. But I think he did well in the first few games, and then they played the Chiefs. And at one point he was 1-15 with like 4 or 5 interceptions or something crazy like that. And that was the start of his demise. So interesting enough. And ironically, obviously Peyton Manning on the other end of the table there, who could have been the choice for anybody, especially San Diego, flourishes and blossoms into one of the very best quarterbacks of all time. I will say this though, Peyton Manning's first year didn't really have a good year at all. I believe they were 1 or 2, right? 1-15 or something like that, just because the Colts were in shambles at that point.
They were 1-15 Peyton's rookie year.
Yeah,
they were the worst team in football. Just to throw this out there, Ryan Leaf's career stats: 4-17 as a starter.
That's dynamite.
His career completion percentage is 48.4. He threw for 14 touchdowns to his 36 interceptions. So
Yeah. Well, and apparently he really liked the party. And as you can tell in my background there, that's his mugshot. And he looks pretty pleased with himself. Either that or he's still kind of high from the night before. I'm not kind of sure. But yeah, definitely a big epic fail there. I think the biggest in NFL history. Yeah. I would
now,
agree.
to his credit, he hasn't epically failed in life. He has turned it around, and he's now a college football assistant coach for one
Oh,
of the
good,
teams in
good,
Washington.
good for
So
him. Good for
he
him.
he is holding it down and being a productive member of society once again. So he didn't completely derail and downward spiral into death. He did bring it back, but definitely epic fail as far as quarterbacks go.
Didn't he play for Washington in college?
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay. Well,
Oh no, sorry.
full circle, I guess.
I think he played for South Carolina.
Oh, I thought he
Or was
played for
that Philip
Washington.
Rivers?
I don't know.
Jeez, I just had him pulled up. Now I gotta pull it back up again.
I'll mention one more of the NFL. I'm not gonna spend a lot of time on it because Jamie will just get upset at me. But the 1990s Buffalo Bills. That is another one that's pretty epic. Not that they were a
Yes,
bad
Washington
team.
State.
Good deal. Not that the Bills were a bad team. In fact, quite the opposite. The Bills were a very phenomenal team. Maybe had the best no huddle offense in the early 90s. However, they went to 4 Super Bowls consecutively and lost all 4. And here's the really fun part, Bob. Here's the really fun part. Talk about having a little bit of pride for the worst division in football right now. The NFC East used to dominate like a motherfucker because they lost to the Giants, then they lost to the Redskins, and then they lost twice in a row to the Cowboys. Woo! Early 90s,
Which
baby.
says a lot. At some point, the NFC East was going to every Super Bowl.
Yeah, seriously, there was a slew of years where we were
how the mighty have fallen. Now the only way they get to Super Bowls is if they buy a fucking ticket.
Ooh. But yeah, I mean, that's some key ones. I think another one that we wrote down too, might as well just mention it, is what's her name? Tanya Harding, and what she did to Nancy Kerrigan. She was poised to be probably the best figure skater and win all kinds of medals. And I don't know if her white trashness caught up with her or her extreme competitiveness that made her have, hire somebody to kneecap old Kerrigan. But that's another one. I mean, there's been multiple movies made out of that story too, just to show you how much of an epic fail that is. So always good times, right?
Yeah, that's a real New York Yankees, Boston Red Sox type of story there, right? So Nancy Kerrigan was a princess, came from a good, wholesome family, was always beating Tanya Harding out in like world championships. And she was always the number one from America. And Tanya Harding was, from the wrong side of the tracks, from the poor part of town, didn't grow up privileged, worked really hard to get where she was, in spite of all that, but still could never get over the hump. So she hired this fucking goon or sucked his dick or whatever she had to do to get him to do it. But who basically went by one day and just rotted Nancy Kerrigan's knee with a steel pipe.
Right in practice, right in Olympic practice too. The guy just walks into the ring and like she's like coming out of like the dressing room. He's like, punk, and then runs out the door, dude. Like it wasn't very well thought out. I could even say that attempt on her was another epic fail of that time.
It was an epic fail. And then the scene afterward with the famous scene with her laying on the ground holding her knee. Why is like,
hey,
forever embedded into American history.
I'm on Nancy's side here. You know what I mean? Why? I mean, it was sad. It was sad times. It hurt my feelings.
It's because, haters, man.
Haters gonna hate and bust your kneecaps.
Haters gonna hate and rod your knee. So watch out, guys. Look around.
Oh my goodness. This is very true, man. Well, some epic fails out there. You know what's fun about this topic is we could go on and on for days.
Well, there's been so many epic fails, and we didn't even hit on like military fails. I mean, Hitler's conquest into Russia, epic fail. Napoleon's conquest into Russia, epic fail.
Christopher Columbus's discovery, quote unquote, of America, epic fail.
Of American Haiti.
of Jamaica or wherever he landed.
Right.
Oh my
Yeah,
gosh.
there's just been so many epic fails throughout history, but obviously there's been epic successes, but that's not this show because
That's not the show.
we like to point out the negative and
We're
make
not
fun of
supposed to
everybody.
be positive about here. Everybody's fucking up, and we're gonna make fun of people's fuck ups. Yeah, come on, dog. Well, you know what? I think we should just get into it, bro. I think we both have some personal bones to pick here, and I'm not being gay when I say that. All right, but oh, the the games have started, haven't they?
Yeah, they have.
Ah,
Sorry,
very nice.
I just saw an epic tackle. So,
Mm.
um, speaking of football,
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
I want to point out an epic fail for my beloved Dallas Cowboys.
Please hit us with it.
And that's Jerry Epic Fail Jones. So Jerry Jones bought the team in the late 80s. I want to say it was like 87, maybe around there. Tom Landry was the coach. Tom Landry was getting old. The team needed to be rebuilt. Um, he fires Tom Landry and hires Jimmy Johnson, which was definitely not the epic fail.
Oh, Jimmy
Um,
Johnson, great coach, great
yeah,
coach.
gave Johnson control. Had just won a title with Florida a couple of years before the Gators.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Where he later went and picked Emmett Smith from. But he drafted Troy Aikman right away in '89. That team went 1-15. But then they had their quarterback, right? And then the next year or two, they ended up getting Michael Irvin and then Emmett Smith, and then they had just offensive line, right? And they built Jimmy Johnson built this great team. 3 years later, from 1-15, they're dominating in the Super Bowl, right? So 92, 93, they win the Super Bowl. 94, they lose and they don't make it to the Super Bowl. I think they lose to the Niners and
that makes sense because
it
this is
was
about this. This is about the Steve Young time period.
yeah, I think it was the conference championship game. Anyway, they didn't
Mm-hmm,
make it. Pretty close.
mm-hmm.
Jerry Jones fires him, hires Shan Gailey, who makes literally
Um,
no
um,
changes, goes back the next year, wins the Super Bowl with that same team.
interesting,
So
interesting.
so that was all, okay. But since then, they have, well, you guys all know, the Cowboys fucking suck dicks. Burlap bag of like, you know, yeast infected dicks. Like this is crazy. They're so bad. They're the epitome of mediocrity. And so for the last, 25 years, Jerry Jones has been epic fail after epic fail. And now him and his son are in charge of player personnel, and they just can't put a good team on the field, a balanced team. They can't do anything. And instead of like blaming the least common denominator of all of these epic fails, which is their own management of the team, they keep blaming the coaches. Right? It was always Jason Garrett's fault.
Sure.
And now whose fault is it? I mean, it's just bad luck.
It's going to be Mike McCarthy's fault here pretty soon, right?
Right?
Obviously.
Dak broke his leg, so your defense sucks. I don't. It doesn't make any sense.
It's like Jerry Jones has that kind of disorder that a lot of like hardcore drug addicts have. Like they can't introspectively look at anything wrong with themselves. They're not doing anything wrong they can't be, right? It's kind of like a Trump thing too, but
I can quit anytime.
yeah. Right, exactly. But what I'm saying is, again, the blame is always somewhere else regardless of what he's responsible for, and I think it's going to continue that way. I don't see him wising up, you know what I'm saying? And that's the sad part.
Yeah. So I made the comparison a couple of days ago in a conversation I had with Scott, and I said the Dallas Cowboys in current state are the LA or Oakland, pick a time period, Raiders of 15 years ago.
Sure.
We're in this perpetual state of owner denial, right? And refusing to give up responsibility and just making bad moves. And the team will never go forward until Jerry Jones dies, either steps down and lets other people try to manage his team, or sells the team, which we all know that of all those possibilities, the most likely one is him fucking dying. So
Yeah,
we're in the state of waiting for Al Davis to die. I'm a
yeah,
Raiders fan. Raiders.
yeah, yeah. Right. No, I agree 100%, man. I mean, you couldn't have said it better. He is basically the same scenario. And as you know, same thing on the other end of the table here too. Our boy here, Dan Schneider, who bought the Washington football team, we'll call them, in 1999. Ever since he bought the team, I think we've had 2-3 playoff appearances, and it's always usually the wild card game. I think we got past the wild card once, and then since then, I think we've had a losing record for the past 20 something years. But same kind of scenario. And with him, I can't even say that. I think Jerry Jones is a little bit better than Dan Schneider in the sense that he understands football a little bit more, because Dan Schneider controls the team, tries to control all kinds of player personnel, everybody, football operations, and the guy doesn't know two shits. I mean, we've been spending our entire salary cap, like capping out our salary almost every season, buying big name players that are on their way out. You know what I mean? Because that's the way you build
it's
a
like
team.
the opposite of the New England Patriot way.
I know, right?
You dump them all as they start, like their contracts start requiring bigger salaries. New England will dump them at that point and get the next guy up that's cheaper, so they can afford more high quality players across the board instead of those big name, valued targets there or whatever. So,
well, I mean, look, just a couple key ones right here. Donovan McNabb, when we got him. Sorry. Albert Hainsworth.
Oh, that's my favorite. He should have been on the first modern epic fails list.
Yeah, the highest paid fucking epic fail fucking lineman of all time. There was times where he sat out of plays, multiple plays, because his stomach wasn't feeling well, but he was just in a little bit before. He's like, he would have these little hissy fits too. But again, high paid players that really are overpaid, big names that Schneider forces everybody to get on board with.
Josh
Norman too, fantastic player for Carolina. He comes over there. He's the worst guy in the secondary for the Redskins for like 4 or 5 years.
But that's okay because he was by far the highest paid. So it works out.
It works out for him. Absolutely. Drafting and giving up the farm to draft RG3 second overall. Big epic fail there too. Drafting Dwayne Haskins too. It looks like we're already putting him on the market. I could go on and on and on. I honestly think the trade between Champ Bailey and Clinton Portis was ill-advised too, because Portis didn't stand the test of time anyways. I would have never gave up Champ Bailey. That's just me.
Fantastic Hall of Fame caliber player. And Clinton Portis for another fantastic, surefire first ballot Hall of Famer. But traditionally, defensive backs hold up better than running backs. I
don't know. Maybe because they're not smashed every single play that they're in by really, really big, strong men.
Hell, half of them won't even tackle someone.
Yeah, exactly, right? So, yeah, epic fail with our two football teams, man. I'll tell you that. Wouldn't it be nice if we could literally force them both out? Not wish death on them. I mean, Jerry's already a little bit closer to the death's door.
I love Jerry. I just don't love him running the team.
Exactly. Dude, be an owner. Kick back, have a martini, and let everybody else worry about the stressful shit. And if they don't do a good job, fire them instead of.
Because if I owned a football team, I would find a great GM like Ozzie Newsome or someone like that, right? Just find a great GM that knows their football, that's a personable person that don't take no shit either, right? Get that GM in there and then just kick back and drink your, Italian surfers with a Russian attitudes and just hang out and watch the game.
What a strange name.
What are you looking at?
Oh wow, that was good. I like that. My God. Well, hey man, I wanted to let everybody know something here. I just got alerted here, just in case you don't. I don't want to bring everybody down, but Alex Trebek just passed away at the age of 80. So an American icon right there. I mean, I've been watching Jeopardy since I was a little kid. The show started in the mid 80s or what have you. I was actually thinking recently, I was like, yeah, this guy's going to do this forever. Apparently not. I don't know what the cause is. I would imagine it has something to do with old age or cardiovascular or whatnot, but I didn't know he was sick. Did you?
I'll take next celebrity to die in 2020.
For 400, please, Alex.
R.I.P. Alex. We love your show. We are never smart enough to beat the contestants on it, but it didn't stop us from feeling like mental giants when we knew an answer.
You know what? Again, just to be comical about it a little bit, what was always funny about Trebek is like he was literally had some of the smartest contestants on there with the biggest IQs and bookworms of all time, right? To really do good at that. When somebody didn't know the answer, he would read it off the card and look at everybody like they were fucking morons. And I'm like, sometimes that would get under my skin. It's like, what do you know? What do you know, Trebek? You just got the cards in front of you. But hey, when you've got all the answers right in front of you, you do wield a position of power. So
And an American icon. I mean, he
yeah,
did that show for like what, 30, 35 years.
yeah, you get up there and you quiz the shit out of God. That's what you're going to be doing now. So good for you, buddy. Rest easy.
So, yes, it's been a rough week. I mean, with Sean Connery, now Alex Trebek. Next thing you know, it'll be Jerry Jones.
I like what you just did there. You just willed Jerry Jones's death, at least his extreme illness that's going to be coming. You know, there's been a trend, Bob. When we say things on the show, they sometimes happen. And I like what you did there, sir. I like what you did there. I'm going to hold off on putting my hex on Dan Snyder until I see how this plays out. I guess that talk about witchcraft really got to you last week.
I would never wish ill will on Jerry. He holds a special place in my heart. I just don't want him running the team anymore. Don't die, Jerry. Just hire a GM.
Woo. Well, I'll tell you what, man. With that being said, I think we're about tapped out for today. I mean, I don't want to go too much further into epic fails, but do you got anything else for us?
I do. I would like for everyone to spread the word of the show and like and subscribe. If you know someone that would get our sense of humor or needs to be informed in some of the topics, please get the Stiff Truth out there. We rely on word of mouth advertising because we are just too damn cheap to pay for it. So
we are frugal, sir. We're frugal and responsible. But yes, no, he's absolutely right, guys. And every little bit helps. We've been noticing too a pretty nice little uptick on viewership on the YouTube channel. So we want to thank everybody for participating there more. It looks like more people are talking, more people are dipping in there, which is always nice because you actually get to see our silly shit live, which is pretty fun, guys. Another big kind of thing here too, I just want to kind of trickle this in, guys, is very, very soon here, we're very excited because we've been having a little bit more help, is we are going to be having some new music with somebody new to produce it. So that's going to be exciting here in the coming shows. I don't have an exact date yet, but just be excited and prepared for some new tunes to go along with the awesome show that is the Stiff Truth. But hey, like Bobby said, please get in there, check us out. Maybe even throw like I'm a poor motherfucker $1 on our Patreon or something like that. You can get that at thestifftruth.com. So check us out.
$3 a month, guys.
It's
seriously.
Patreon, I mean, if,
help out.
Yeah, if you can't do it, I understand, but come on, let's do it. And guys, other than that, always a pleasure. I had a lot of fun talking about some silly epic fails today and the election. We'll see what happens. I'm sure there's going to be more of this unfolding this week that we can chat about next week. But until next time, guys, we love you. We'll see you soon. And please get out there and make sure you have a clean, cleansed butthole for the work week. Take care.
Right. And then clean your fingernails. See ya.